Today, I'm facing the world, facing whatever that future might hold for me. Please, you may try all you want, I just don't give a damn, and never will, because that I take life as it is. Anything's easy when my heart's believing in me. Come rain or shine, I'm
Shooter ready?
facing
Stand by.
the world,
Go.
and I'm gonna survive.
What is going on, everyone? Welcome back to another episode of Slide Bite. I know it's been a while and I've been kind of busy, but I promise I'll kind of explain in the next status update on why my log absence, and I'm honestly kind of glad that I'm back here in the studio making content for you guys, because it's been a while and I miss you guys, and I hope you guys miss me as well. So today we are taking a look at something that has been on the docket for a long time, and for my guys out in Hawaii, you guys know what this has been a long time coming. Today we're taking a look at the WeTech M14, and of course it's a gas blowback. This is something that I actually got to try out in Hawaii. A guy there, I'm kind of blanking on his name, but you know who you are. He let me try out his EVR version, which I have a photo up right here with my 417. And I thought it was pretty cool. We did a little DMR run there, just basically shooting at people from long range. And we had a lot of fun. And I figured that I'd do him a favor and do a review on this. Now, I'm going to be honest, this has been a interesting gun to say the least. But before I get into this particular gun, I kind of want to just lay out some grievances with a company that I've tried to buy from multiple times, and I just, no matter what, it seems like it's pulling teeth. Now, to get one of these rifles, you have to go to Evike, and Evike kind of abuses their position of being the only guys that carry gas blowbacks of any sort of type. And they're no different, and I heard that this is not just an issue with Evike, but with a lot of people. But I'm still gonna curse out Evike because of just the horrible customer service I've had with them. And it has to do with the story of how I got this rifle. So when I first bought this rifle, it of course came without a muzzle device. It came with the orange tip, and I thought, oh, that's fine. There's going to be a front sight that I can put on after I rip off the old plastic one. No, that is not the case. It came without the front sight, from what I can tell, and I had to go and order a separate spare part, the front sight and locking collar. And okay, I wait a couple days, and lo and behold, they send me the front sight without the fucking locking collar. So throughout the footage you can see, and actually you can see in the footage right here, I can just pull this off no problem, because they didn't bother to send me something that was advertised on their website. So that's cool. This thing can basically slide off whenever it feels like it. And to be honest, I'm kind of done dealing with Evike. This is kind of the last time I even bothered buying shit from them intentionally. I did have a 249 on the way, but it got delayed to, at the time of this video, next month, when I ordered it back in fucking October. So I just wanted to lay out that grievance because I'm getting fucking pissed with them. And all the gas blowbacks that I buy from now on, and heck, even AEGs, I am not buying from Evike ever again. I'm probably going to buy it from AEX more often because I like their selection of stuff. But that's just some quick grievance I wanted to get off my chest, because making this video felt like pulling teeth, especially when dealing with them. So last time I'm buying from Evike ever again. This is the last gun besides the 249 that you're going to see. Right, so with grievances out of the way, what is the gun actually like? And to be honest, I was kind of conflicted on how I feel about something like this, because for one, I love 7.62, I love battle rifles. However, with a gun like this, I'm honestly kind of at a loss for words, because, well, in its current stock configuration, I guess you can kind of use it in a variety of ways, but there's really only a couple of actual ways that you can use this thing, and we'll kind of go into it. So, like always, I'm going to go ahead and head to the table, take this apart, kind of show you the guts, how to, like field strip it and do some basic maintenance. And then afterwards, we're going to come back here, talk about performance and handling, and I kind of give my final verdict. So with that out of the way, let's take it to the table. All right, welcome back to the table. So the first thing you're going to notice about this gun is that it can't fit in the camera frame. And just like the FAL, these sort of long guns, they tend to take up quite a bit of real estate anywhere they are. And as a result, I can't exactly put this in camera frame without you guys seeing my feet. And no, this is not r/airsoft circle jerk, so we're not doing that. But for a lot of you guys who are here for the trades, I'm gonna have to disappoint because the base version of the M14 has nothing. There is a Springfield edition of the M14 which has trades all over the wazoo, but unfortunately, just for the base version of the gun, there's nothing on it. Like no trades, no serial numbers, nothing. So kind of disappointing. If you want that, sorry. I guess you can wait till I do a review on like a BCM or something like that. So with trades kind of out of the way, let's kind of go over the controls of the gun, and we'll kind of start with the heart of the gun right here. So moving on to the controls of the gun, you have quite a bit of stuff, but it's all very basic. You have your fire selector right here. You have your safety, which is currently pushed in, which is basically just to block the gun's trigger. And yeah, that's pretty much it. You flip this forward, pull this, it's gonna fire. So you can see the charging handle is right here, and it is basically a part of the gas block itself. To open the gun, you just simply push back like so, and it, on an empty mag like so, will just lock open. The gun, unlike an actual M1 Garand, actually has a bolt release right here, and you just simply push it down and the bolt will slam forward. On the gun's, I guess, rear sight, you have two little knobs there. This one is for windage, this one is for, I guess, distance. And unfortunately, it doesn't really give you any sort of markings to discern whether it's in yards, meters, or if it's even got any sort of meters. You kind of have to guess it on your own. Same with the windage, it doesn't give you anything, and you're kind of on your own. Funny enough, it does have a, I guess, a stripper clip holder there. I don't get it, but it's there. You can remove it by just simply putting a grub screw in there and then removing it if you really so desire. All right, so controls out of the way. Let's go ahead and field strip this. And I just kind of want to spoiler or give a heads up. I will not be doing a 100% true to life field strip because there's a quirk of the gun that is, I guess, WeTech's doing to prevent some mechanical failure, and I kind of understand why. But as a result, I won't be able to take the bolt out and show you the actual bolt itself unless I go scrounging around for the proper tool for it. So I'm just going to break this apart, show you real fast, and then we're going to head back to performance and handling, and we'll kind of go from there. All right, so let's go ahead and take the gun apart. So first off, I'm going to take the magazine out, and you just simply push forward on this and rock it out. It is a rock-in, or you can just straight push in like so. It's a very easy magazine to kind of pull in and out, but there is a weird caveat that I will kind of mention later on in performance and handling. I'm kind of offsetting a lot of stuff to performance and handling for a good reason, and I promise we'll kind of get to it eventually. So going over the mag, it's a 25 to 30 round mag, box mag. Of course, most of the BBs are basically straight walled right here, and the rest of this is just all gas reservoir. Typically the case with 7.62 gas blowbacks, which is quite nice. It means that when you charge this thing, you charge it once for your entire day, and you don't have to really reload it that much unless it's being very wasteful. We'll get to that later. You fill the gas through this bottom port right here. It takes quite a lot of gas, and these do get pretty heavy. Thankfully though, the shell is like all metal. It's some sort of steel or aluminum, It makes it look pretty rustic, and you can see it's been kind of worn down there because we have kind of been beating this thing to hell and back, so there's that. You also have your knocker valve right there, little hold open for your magazine. You can kind of see if I push it down, you can see that it's kind of driving the follower down, and you have your feed lips, and like so. This little notch here is for the inside of the gun. You can't really see it. I'll show you when we take it apart, but when you kind of push it in, the little hold open actually is spring loaded, so it allows you to push back and pull it in. So we'll go into that. Okay, so let's go ahead and take apart the gun. First off, we're gonna go ahead and pull on the trigger guard here. If you pull back on it with enough force, you should be able to bring it down like so. Oh, come on. Like so, and you should swing it forward, and the entire trigger pack comes out like so. So this is your trigger pack. As you can see, it's very, I don't want to say basic. It looks like someone took a clock out and turned it into a fire control group. I'm not sure if this is how the actual fire control group looks, but I guess I could believe it. You have a little spring there, you have your disconnector and your hammer, and you can also see the little, I guess, hammer for knocking the gas valve, so that's neat. Moving on to the rest of the gun, from here you can just simply pull the stock off, and this is actually where a majority of the weight comes from. This is a particle board stock, or imitation wood that they say. You can get plastic, you can get a real wood version, which is doubles the price, but it's there, and thankfully this thing just comes off, and the fiery control guts kind of sit on this and really don't do much. This is literally, well, it's just a wood stock, nothing really else to write home. This is pretty much where the field strip ends for me, and honestly for anyone who's out in the field unless they bring their tools. Typically from a real M14, from here you would push on a little thing inside here. You see where that grub screw is right there. That is what's holding in this rod. Typically you would shift this off to the side, you can pull this out, and you would be able to pull the rest of the bolt and all the rest of the guts of the thing out. But unfortunately, on the WeTech model, this little grub screw is what's holding in everything else. So I do not have that current Allen key thing, so unfortunately it's not coming out anytime soon. But from there you would be able to pull this off, pull the bolt off, and you would be able to service it from there. So if you're going to take this out to a mil sim, or you're taking this out just to a simple day game, make sure to bring a very tiny screw or Allen key for this little grub screw so that you can pull it out, punch it out, and then remove everything else to kind of service it. I can do one little final thing here, and that is remove this gas plug. If I remove that, you just make sure the spring doesn't go flying out. Put that off to the side, and just kind of let that flail around a bit. I can push this out, and you get your mock sort of gas plug here, and it is flattened on one side so that when you push it in, there is a certain way it goes in. If you didn't know this, it makes it would make life hell, but if you do know, it makes life easy. And it does nothing. It is literally just fluff for you to disassemble even more. You really can do without this, so make of that as you will. Right, that is the WeTech M14 table. I'm gonna put this back together, and I'll see you guys in performance and handling. Again, if you have the tools, I can go more into it. Unfortunately, I can't find my Allen key because I lost it somewhere, so whoopsies. But yeah, it's honestly not too bad to take apart and putting it back together. It's just you need a tool. You do need a tool to kind of go into even more field stripping. So yeah, that's pretty much it. I'm gonna put this back together, and I'll see you guys at performance and handling. Right, so now that we're back from the table, let's go ahead and talk about performance and handling, and let's start off with performance. Now, a lot of you guys might think that as a battle rifle, this thing might have high FPS and will hit like a truck. Weirdly enough, that's not the case. Going going over the performance of this gun, it's honestly kind of lackluster before modifications. Now, I kind of understand that WeTechs are the guns that you tend to put a lot of modifications into, but for those who don't know that and are just trying to buy something out of the box, the performance, it leaves a lot to be desired. So let's start with the actual output power of this thing. Starting off, the power on this gun is, I don't know how to feel about this. With 0.28 on a 65-degree Fahrenheit day, it's outputting about 250 FPS per shot. And that's kind of averaging it out. There's a couple high spikes, but for the most part, it's relatively consistent. And it's kind of low. That's about 0.8 joules worth of energy being put out of this gun. And I'm not sure if that's because this thing has a low power nozzle in it, or if that is how it's supposed to act, or if it's just me putting in 0.28s because I need it for outdoor shooting. But for a brand new factory, like a factory new M14, that's pretty low. And as a result, it's kind of disappointing. You're kind of expecting something a little bit faster to kind of punch through wind, foliage, all that sort of fun stuff. It's rather disappointing. You're getting into kind of the SMG pistol territory, and it's just kind of disappointing, honestly. The next thing is also the accuracy of this gun. I'm just kind of attributing this to just WeTech's quality control because, well, it's WeTech. The accuracy on this thing is, it's all right. At about 30, 40 feet, you're going to hit a silhouette-sized target, no problem. But if you're expecting to hit targets out to about 100 feet, you're going to need to do some work. Doing the preliminary testing on this thing, trying to shoot out to that sort of distance, I started to notice a lot of the dispersion of the BBs kind of going whoop or whoop or whoop. It's just going all over the place. And again, I'm attributing that to just needing a new bucking. I've put 2,000 rounds through this thing, so the break-in period is long gone. So I'm not sure what's going on with this. I know that it can be pretty accurate. The one I used in Hawaii was pretty damn accurate. So I'm just gonna chalk it up to it needs some work. Okay, so we're not doing so good out of 2. What about the efficiency of the gun? Well, the efficiency is pretty decent. On a relatively cool day like during December of this year, at the time of this video, it's about 65 degrees Fahrenheit, and I'm getting at least 1.7 charge to reload ratio with a 10-second charge from a regular can of green gas. So you're gonna go through an entire mag, no problem, and then you'll even go through most of the second mag once you reload this thing. So it's pretty decent in that aspect. You will get this like kind of dramatic puff of gas, and kind of relating to that, the recoil as a result is quite substantial on this thing. The one thing that I realize is, as we kind of get into handling, the bolt on the M14 is on the heavier side in terms of gas blowbacks, and as a result, this gun does tend to kind of walk around in your hands if you're not really kind of gripping it quite tightly. So that's just something to be aware of when you're operating this thing out in the field. Now, it may sound like it's all kind of doom and gloom, but it's not exactly. Thankfully, because, well, it's WeTech, a lot of the gun's components are interchangeable with, for a wide variety of its lineup, and as a result, you can type bore barrel this thing. You can also put in a what's called an ice pick flute valve, which will dramatically increase the FPS. My friend from Hawaii, who has, again, modified his M14, he has done these modifications, and he has verified that this thing shoots quite hot with 0.25s. So bear in mind, you can definitely turn these things into monsters, but depending on where you feel you're actually at, it might just be best to keep it as its current configuration. So with performance out of the way, let's go ahead and just quickly talk about handling. And let's kind of get the elephant out of the room. This gun is kind of heavy. And you guys know me, I don't mind heavy guns. I quite enjoy it. I kind of see it as a weird way of getting some strength training while playing airsoft. But for a lot of you guys, say, who don't really exercise all that much or don't really want the heft, I'd say probably get the EBR version, which is slightly more expensive, but is much lighter because it's basically a skeletonized chassis instead of this heavy particle board stock. As a result, it is quite a chore to kind of draw down and also swing around. That's just kind of the inertia of how heavy this thing is. The weight of the gun just by itself right now is probably on par with my 417 in the back there, with all the accoutrement on it. And so for those of you who are looking for something relatively light, you probably want to steer clear of this. Again, unless you're getting the EBR. The other thing I noticed with the M14 is you can't exactly hold this in a modern sort of sense. To kind of put it in perspective, let's take the MP7 here, where you can kind of shoulder it and you can be very scrunched up. And if you look side on, you can see that my shoulders are in very, very close to myself, which is kind of the modern thing, you know, keeping yourself as low of a profile as possible. On the M14, for example, you can kind of see that my profile is a lot more different. You can see that I've kind of chicken winged my shooting arm out, and that's for a good reason. You see, on a stock like this, where it's rather massive and, you know, it's made of materials that are harder than you, per se, as a result, when you try to do the kind of scrunched up thing, your arm forces the stock inwards. And for me, that cuts into my collarbone and also parts of my shoulder, and it's kind of uncomfortable, especially when you're, say, wearing webbing, body armor, that sort of thing. It's kind of uncomfortable, and as a result, if you're just bare shirting like I am, when you chicken wing it, you form a sort of pocket for it to kind of rest easy into, and it's a lot more comfortable to do the wide profile thing than doing the tactical thing. So a lot of you guys who are coming from, say, AR style platforms and are not used to that, it's going to take a little bit of time to kind of get used to that. I know for me that this has been quite the learning experience with this platform, learning to kind of stick out my arm a little more and also risk getting shot more. Actually, during a couple of games, I got a nice long row of BB marks because I'm holding it like so, leaning out, and then getting shot like so. So that's just something to be aware of. There is, from what I've seen, a slight grain of truth to how I've been handling it. During my cursory research on this, it seems like some experts, actually recommend you do that. So it seems to line up quite nicely, but again, take this with a grain of salt. I'm just a airsofter who does this every so often as a hobby. This is nothing that I say when it comes to actual doctrine should be seen as gospel or taken very seriously. This is just my personal experiences when it comes to the manual of arms and handling something like this or any other gun that I do a review on. So keep that in mind, all right? So the final thing I'm going to talk about is this fire selector here. Generally speaking, on a lot of modern platforms, the fire selector is usually very close to the rest of your digits. Typically, you can throw your AR fire selector with your thumb, or you can drop the bolt like on an MP7 with your index finger. On a M14, and granted, this is kind of an archaic platform, so I'm being a little bit unfair, you have to actually take your hand off the trigger and then rotate it. There's actual sort of intentionality to actually flipping this to full auto. And it's not a modern sort of platform where you can just simply twist it free will. You actually have to push in and then twist it like so. And there's only two firing modes, semi and full auto. And that's all you're gonna get. Very, very basic sort of fire selector on this platform. So overall, I mean, the overall handling of the gun is not awful. Now, granted, I've been kind of using this for a long while, kind of, you know, doing trying to practice room clearing, or just doing some general backyard plinking, going to airsoft games with this thing. you're kind of the general thing that I've learned is that you're going to be at a disadvantage kind of no matter what. It's very long, it's kind of clunky, you got to kind of get used to it in terms of like doing the reload. The other final thing is also this magazine release is very stiff. You have to put in quite a bit of force to drop that bolt. So in the end, do I recommend this particular gas blowback? Well, to the general populace, I would say no, with a couple of caveats. If you want a 7.62 sniper rifle and you want it semi-auto and in the traditional kind of stock form, sure, I'd say go for it, but probably want to fit this with something a little lighter, which is kind of already expensive on its own. The main thing discouraging me from recommending this to the general population is, number one, we're kind of living in the age of the tactical ACR, AR platforms, and for a lot of people who are like me, used to that sort of platform and go to other different sort of systems or go to lighter systems, this is kind of like taking a step back, and as a result, you kind of have to relearn a lot of stuff in a sort of weird way. I know for me that when I took this out to a couple games, I suffered drastically because I'm lugging this thing around. I don't have any rail sights on this thing. I was just using pure irons, which is on me, granted, but the general gist of it is that its performance is lackluster, followed by the old layout of this thing. You're better off getting a FAL. Just gonna straight up say it. You're better off getting the WeTech G3 FAL because the controls on it are a lot more modern, a lot more intuitive than this thing where, you know, we have this, what seems to be an afterthought for a fire selector on it. And on top of that, this gun is not particularly cheap at the time of this video. I think like the gun on its own is like $450 before shipping, and that could make or break a lot of people's budgets. And you know, gas blowback magazines aren't cheap as they are. They're like $50 a pop. So say you want to do a M14 loadout, you got to get this and say 3 other mags. Can push you easily over to $500, close to $600 if you're going to put even more attachments on this thing. So that's just something to bear in mind. And especially I'm trying to appeal more to the younger audience that are, say, getting their first jobs and, you know, not exactly established in the community or in their careers. So their disposable income is kind of limited. That's kind of how I've seen this series. And even though it doesn't come out all that well, I want to make that very apparent that, especially for those the younger audience that follows me, to bear in mind that this system may not be for you because well, for one, it's heavy, 2, it's kind of expensive, and 3, you're going to need to put in a lot of work that you may not have the time for. So that's just something that, you know, again, to bear in mind because the platform does take some time to get used to. Now that said, it's not exactly a lost cause. This gun has quite a bit of potential for a lot of reasons. And I'll say off the first one. The first one is, this thing is perfect for the sort of, how should I say, LARPers. Those of you who are doing Vietnam War, Gulf War, you know, Black Hawk Down type thing, because I think GT did a video with a DMR'd M14, so I think that's very popular, like last year. I'm kind of late on that. But funny enough, I feel like this also has a place in the World War II kind of genre. I can already hear some of you guys laughing at me going like, Gekko, a M14 in a World War II setting, you must be crazy. Yeah, but kind of bear with me on this one. I think this would fit perfectly for World War II reenactors for a pretty good reason. Number one is there's not really that many good, say, rifles for the US side. When you look at the general lineup of their gas blowbacks, you really only have like 2. You have the M1 carbine, which is made by King Arms, and then you also have the Thompson, which is also made by WeTech. But you don't really have the iconic M1 Garand. You do have Springer 1903s, you do have AEG 1918 BARs, And I kind of make exceptions for AEGs being MGs because that kind of makes sense doctrinally. But for the general rifleman who can't really find a like AR or a M1 Garand anywhere, the WeTech M14 kind of fills that role because, well, for one, the M14 is based off of the M1, and number two is, well, you can remove the full auto button here and it'll stay semi-auto ad infinitum, honestly. So as a result, if you're, say, wanting to LARP as a guy dying on the beaches of Normandy, this is a pretty decent option because, like I said, if you look at the general profile of it, it does look a hell of a lot like an M1 because it technically came from the M1. So with that out of the way, I think that even though in the current marketplace this may not really have a place, there is hope for it if you're willing to put in the effort, and that kind of really is the real crux of buying one of these, is that you need to put in some work to make it viable. So yeah, that's pretty much the end of this video. Hope you guys enjoyed. I know I've kind of waffled on near the end there, but I do think it's an interesting platform, and I'm glad you guys stuck around to indulge my delusions. I got a lot more stuff on the way. I know this year's been kind of dry when it comes to airsoft reviews. I'm sorry for that. And hopefully soon, maybe I'll get some more stuff out of the way. So, without the way, take care, and I'll see you in the next video.